Hello everyone, and welcome back to Toku Toy Theory, where I take a look at toys from various tokusatsu series and try to figure out why they look and act the way they do. In this episode, we'll be taking a look at Kamen Rider Drive Type Wild, as well as its associated shift cars and the tires for it that exist. So, let's begin. To start, we'll look at this type's transformation shift car, Shift Wild. This shift car is based on an off-road buggy. It has a black chassis with a silver undercarriage, and this will come into play more later. You can see it has a pair of racing stripes, similar to Shift Speed, along with pale yellow headlights, and the drive symbol on the front. You can see it has a nice curve to the body, as well as much larger wheels than Shift Speed. It's got this silver guard bar in the back, as well as a tail light in the back, similar to the one on Shift Speed. Additionally, like with all type changing shift cars, the symbol in lever mode is drive symbol. This transforms Kamen Rider Drive into Type Wild. So, as you can see, this type looks very different from Type Speed. Starting off with the head, you can see it has a more armored look to it, with more angular headlights at the top, or kind of bumper lights, as well as what looks like a winch in the front. It still has the same headlight visor, as well as the stripes on the top, and the taillight in the back. You'll also notice that the position of the tire has changed from across the chest to on his right shoulder. And this is another thing that changes with each type, is that the position of the tire changes. You can see that for the Type Wild tire, it has more bumps to it, making it more of an off-road tire. Getting into the chest, you can see a front grille here, as well as some front lights in metallic blue, as well as one turn signal in red, and there would be another one over here if not for the tire. Coming down to the body, you can see another big difference, which is that compared to the black underbody of Type Speed, Type Wild has a silver underbody, as well as a silver back. And this is indicative of something about the types which is important to note, which is that the types are essentially reflections of the shift cars used to transform into them. So, since Shift Wild was a black shift car with a silver underbelly, or silver undercarriage, the same applies here, to where the base suit or undercarriage of Drive Type Wild is silver, where the armor or the chassis is black. You can see he has some different armor along his arms, as well as more thick thigh armor, though he does share the same shin armor and foot armor. You also see a cap here on the wheel, which is removable to accommodate some of the different tires used for this form. So overall, this form is definitely one that's meant to give off a look of power, as this is kind of the power type for Drive. So next we'll look at his other shift cars. First up, we'll look at Shift Massive Monster. This shift car is clear purple and green, and is based off a monster truck, as indicated by the fact that you can see fangs along the front wheel rims, or wheel wells, as well as eyes on the side windshields, or the side windows rather. So it does give off the look of a real monster truck, even though it is more in the shape of a car. You also see it is stylized to where it looks like it has nostrils on the front and horns on the back. So overall it does give off the aesthetic of a monster or monster truck. The symbol for when it's in lever mode is that of a monster mouth or monster head. This changes drive into Type Wild Monster. So, as you can see, the tire is a purple color to match the shift car, and has a similar monster face on it. Now what this tire can do is that it has a tongue that it can extend out and lash enemies with, but this tire also equips drive with a pair of kind of jaws, aptly named the monsters. As you can see, it looks like the top and bottom jaws of a monster's head. You can see it even has some scaling to it, as well as these bulging veins. And the interesting thing is that when non-use, the two halves actually collapse around the massive monster tire to actually make it look like a monster head. And so this is definitely quite a fierce tire. Next up is Shift Rumble Dump. This shift car is yellow and black and is based on a dump truck. And one of the first things to know about this is that unlike all the other shift cars seen up to this point, the point of separation where part of it changes into a lever is actually in the front rather than the back. And this is something that we'll see on a few other shift cars. And this does cleverly adhere to the way some shift cars, or rather some cars in general, are designed, to basically help separate something like the trunk and cab section, or in this case the cab and basically flatbed. You can see the kind of cowcatcher on the front, as well as the more flat front to it. Got the windshield. You can see caution stripes on the side to indicate the angle of the bed itself, as well as the back, where you can see a kind of faux set of inner wheels to make it look like it has 6 wheels instead of 4. And for its symbol in level mode, we have a dump truck pouring out dirt and gravel. This changes drive into Type Wild Dump. This equips him with the Rumble Dump tire, which you can see has a large drill on it, which can spin while on his shoulder for a shoulder attack, but can also detach the drill rumble, which can be equipped to one of Drive's hands, so he can actually use the drill as a proper weapon. As you can see, it has a more construction vehicle type look to it. And for the drill rumble, you can see it has some chevrons, which in the show have a black outline, giving it more of that sense of being used for construction work. Though in toy form, the drill can only spin when attached to the tire, thanks to a built-in gear mechanism. But this is another interesting tire, which is interestingly more of a demolition type tire than construction. Next we have Shift Mad Doctor. This shift car is white and red and is based on an ambulance. As you can see, it has a pretty simple rendered design, but you can see where it has indicators that it is an ambulance, such as the red, white, and black coloring, as well as these sections on the top and on the back for where the sirens would be. An interesting thing of note is that the wheels here are the same color as the body, which is actually pretty atypical for a shift car. For symbol in level mode, you have a heart with, rather than being a broken heart, a lightning bolt going through it. This changes drive into Type Wild Doctor. This equips him with the Mad Doctor tire, which you can see has an electrocardiogram or heart rate monitor going through it. And this also equips him with the Cure Quicker, a little med pack that can serve as either a stethoscope or a defibrillator. And while this is usually used for healing purposes, the electricity running through it can be up to such levels that can be used to harm opponents. And that aspect is why it's a heart with a lightning bolt going through it, to kind of indicate the defibrillator aspect, since a defibrillator works by sending a jolt of electricity to the body, usually to restart a person's heart. Next up is Shift Burning Solar. This shift car is red and blue and is based on a solar car, which is to say, a car that runs off solar power. As you can see, for such high-tech futuristic technology, it has a very futuristic look to it, being very smooth and having the entire front, or the entire top rather, covered in these blue solar panels. So, for its lever mode symbol, you've got a sun, which is fitting since this is solar powered. Now theoretically, this would change drive into Type Wild Solar. However, this is one of a few shift cards that were never used in the series or any outside materials, meaning a tire for it does not exist, either in show form or in toy form. However, when used on its own, Shift Burning Solar can be used to send out a blinding flash of light using its solar power, so I imagine that the Burning Solar tire would give a similar property. Next is Shift Colorful Commercial. This shift car is orange with a yellow undercarriage, and is based on an advertising truck, which is exactly what it sounds like, being a vehicle with video monitors plastered on it that display advertisements that drive around to advertise something, usually a TV show or a movie. So, you can see that this one does have 3 video monitors, 2 on the sides and 1 on the front, and they all advertise Try to Run, which is Kamen Rider Drive's rider machine that we'll get into more in a future video. But otherwise, there's not too much else about it, aside from the fact that, true to its name, it is very colorful. So the symbol for its lever mode does have an array of colors, and it displays a TV with the words CM on the monitor, with CM being the Japanese abbreviation of commercial. Now, like with Burning Solar, this is another shift car that was not used with the drive driver in any materials, so no tire exists for it. However, when used on its own, it can display a video monitor to display video footage. So that's likely what it would do if it had an associated tire. Though this would be mostly used for distracting purposes, most likely, and rather than for any kind of combat. And finally, we have Shift Hooking Wrecker. This shift car is dark green and yellow, and is based on a tow truck, though it's called Hooking Wrecker because wrecker is a British slang term for tow truck, which was most likely adopted by the Japanese culture. So, as you can see, it's got a molded-on winch and tow line on the front, sirens on the top, as well as the proper hook and line on the back, plus a flatbed for stowing a car on. Now, interestingly, this is the first shift car to have a secondary gimmick besides just changing into lever mode, which is that the hook can be raised and lowered. Meanwhile, the symbol for lever mode is the image of a tow hook. This changes Drive into Type Wild Wrecker, who I can't show you in toy form as a version of that tire was never released for the Tire Kokon series, but it was released in the show. So as you can see, it equips him with the Hooking Wrecker tire, which has a hook and line attached to it that he can use to throw at and grab opponents. And there we go. So overall, we can see that Kamen Rider Drive Type Wild and his associated shift cars all have a shared theme in being based on bigger, more heavy-duty vehicles, as is fitting of this power-based type. Unfortunately, looking into it also highlights what is probably the biggest flaw of Kamen Rider Drive as a series, which is that even though the series was completed, it was never fully realized on the part of both the producers at Toei and the toy manufacturers at Bandai, in that even though they did produce all of these different shift cars, not all of them had tires made for them in the series, and even among the ones that were made into tires for the series, not all of them were brought to life in the Tire Kokon series. So, unfortunately, the series is complete and yet incomplete in terms of Kamen Rider Drive's gear. That is a flaw I've learned to accept, but is a flaw nonetheless. However, that is not going to hinder my progress in this series, as the next entry and a further entry will share this similar flaw, but that is not something I'm going to let get in my way. So, next time I'll be reviewing the Deluxe Night of Safari Gashat. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and if you're new and would like to see more, please subscribe. And for now, this is KRX50, riding off.